Unclear. I'm going to try something different, see if I can... Whoa.
No, get this off of my screen. Hello everyone, I am Mecha Random 42, the one, the only, the original, your favorite YouTube harpy. We're talking Star Trek today, or at least what they're passing off for Star Trek now. Full on puke scenes, and probably some of the most hilarious deaths of beloved characters, and some of the most offensive ones too. We'll get into that in a second. This is our space junkie, space junkie. Yeah, you see her with booze, vape pens, all the other good stuff. And we're rooting for these people in Picard because that's what Star Trek am now.
I like science.
We're getting to Discovery soon. We're talking Picard today. Now, I have a few articles to respond to. First up, Indywire. They interviewed showrunner Michael Chabon, and Michael Chabon has been on my list. It has been on my list since I went through looking at some of his posts on Instagram and found that he suffers from TDS. What is TDS? Well, these are people who are obsessed with bringing, their partisan political views into everything, whether they need to be there or not, whether you ask them to or not. And those type of people, and they're only on one side. Oh, actually, that's not true. We get them on both sides. But hey, we're a non-political channel at all. I don't care. I talk about Star Trek, and Star Trek used to be a show about uplifting people, and it was a humanitarian show. It had humanities and all species interest in at heart, right? That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to bring us all together in a way that benefited everybody. Was that particularly progressive? And yeah, it kind of was. And that's kind of how my ideals were formed throughout the years, was seeing how things played out, and that you got a pretty fair assessment for the most part over the years. And yeah, there's some little flubs and blunders, and there's some corny stuff in Star Trek. We get that. We know we're not above that. We know that Kirk fighting the Gorn was kind of comical at times. We know that Star Trek has always had violence. It's always had space battles, but it's never been quite so blatant like that. And I'm not even showing you the full clip because they took about 45 seconds to go in with the sound effects, drilling into a character's eye, a beloved character, Icheb, actually. And the guys at Midnight's Edge and I got to interview the actor who portrayed him originally, and I'm not going to try and say his name right now because I'd have to hear it to be able to repeat it. This stuff is not okay. This is not okay. This is just a giant FU to our fans. And this is more of the same garbage that we've been getting. The same excuses. That's all this is. This is just excuse after excuse after excuse to say, no, we're standing by our product. And that's fine to stand by the product you're making. But don't come in here and say that we're complaining for nothing. Don't dismiss our critiques. Don't dismiss our complaints. Don't write us off all as a bunch of ists and phobes because we disagree with some of the content of your current shows. The problem with Star Trek is not that it is different. It is that it entirely broke the entirety of Star Trek to fit in this badly written, badly acted, badly directed, and badly lit series. And we're being insulted still for it. And they're still making excuses. Stop making excuses for bad TV. Say, you know what, we're sorry. And move on and say, oh, we'll try and make it better. We'll hear your concerns. We'll take in your feedback for next season. Like a professional television producer, writer, showrunner would do. Right? And it's worded that way. It's worded that way here. It's not going to be worded that way when I get into the article. I can guarantee you that. Picard showrunner Michael Chabon believes Trek should not repeat itself, but understands fan angst. And that's fine. You don't have to repeat yourself. You don't have to just make the next generation the next generation. We don't need the same formula to make it work. Look, we had the space station. That worked just fine because that still brought in enough unique alien species and had the right message overall for the most part. And DS9 was where a lot of the stuff went downhill because they did change a lot of what was happening in a show that copied Babylon 5. And yeah, there's lawsuits out there to prove that one. In an interview with Indywire, Jonathan Del Arco, they talk about how you can never go home again. Well, Jonathan Del Arco, I'm saying his name wrong probably, he played Hugh of Borg. Beloved character that I'm not the biggest Hugh of Borg fan. Anyway, that wasn't my episode of Next Generation. I liked the Data stuff quite a bit. I liked a lot of the other stuff. Picard wasn't even the best character on Next Generation. He was the stuffy old guy in charge. He was the boss. The show was an ensemble show. If you just take the one character from any of these shows, like Next Generation, it's hard to make an entire show of all of them. And that's one of the biggest problems, is that they're trying to bank on nostalgia. They're banking on us going in there saying, hey, I remember Picard. They're going in on our member berries and saying, oh yeah, that's enough. And when they bring in Riker and Troy, that was the most watchable episode for me, even though it had some of the most ridiculous moments. Like when they decided to off Hugh of Borg in the most comical way possible. Let me see if I can pull that one up here. Yeah. So you had the Romulan elf bringing a literal knife to a gunfight. He brought a sword in. Of course that's going to happen. One more of many, many, many things wrong with this series. So let's continue the article. I didn't even start the article. Chabon resists the call of fan service when bringing back legacy characters. There has to be a real reason in the story. Well, you know what? You're banking on legacy character Picard. You shouldn't have brought him back. That's one of the problems, is he's spending the whole show apologizing or doing nothing. This is not a show about Picard. This is a show about a whole bunch of randos that have to go and have a fetch quest to get this android girl from point A to point B for reasons. You could do a show like that. Give us a reason to give a crap. Give us some characters that actually had some sort of a connection to Data other than Picard, like Geordi. Hey, you could kill two birds with one stone there. You could have representation if you have a show starring LeVar Burton. No, you can't do that. But that's another rant for another day. I gotta get into this article. When I sat down and watched the first episode of Next Generation the night it premiered, my first reaction was, I don't like this, Michael Chabon said and told IndieWire. And here's the problem. This is one more of the things that I keep hearing, is that, Next Generation wasn't any good. Next Generation was bad when we saw it. No, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. People were like, hey, this is a little different, but it still served the same message. It was still this humanitarian thing, and that was the first episode of Next Generation, was making sure that we were ready. Q put Picard on trial. I'm gonna calm down. I'm gonna start yelling, and when I start yelling, then I see my red line going on my audio there, and I know it's just gonna be completely headphone destroying for you guys, so I gotta stop yelling. What is this crap with a bald actor and a counselor on the bridge? And what do you need a first officer? Yeah. Like, who's the captain here? And this android just did knock off Spock. Yeah. All right. So that sounds like somebody who was just throwing a temper tantrum to throw a temper tantrum and didn't have any actual criticisms of the show. And this is exactly why they think that we don't like Discovery, because of stupid superficial crap, instead of the fact that, no, we don't like Discovery. Well, the people who don't anyway. It's not because of the the amount of pigment in the main actress's skin. It is the fact that the show is terrible. It is terribly written, terribly directed, terribly acted. It thinks this is Spock. Also, thank you so much for subscribing.
I like science.
It thinks that is Spock, and it had to shoehorn in an adopted sibling for Spock, and guess what? This character, Michael Burnham, would suck if this were a white dude as well. So don't you give me all this, oh, we just don't like it because of the color of the skin of the actress. That's why, because they are just as hateful as they like to project us to be. That is why. He did not like the fact that there was a woman on the bridge. He did not like the fact that they were coming in with this show. No, that's not the problem. I've been through this for decades. The new characters on a show are not the problem. It is when you have to break the entire way the show works and functions. You have to break the world to fit your stupid little story about border crap and Brexit into Star Trek, which doesn't even belong with Starfleet as the bad. They've got Starfleet and the Federation as the bad guys again. They've got it so that Picard didn't go and save the Romulans. And the Romulans are sitting there on their lazy asses, not even doing anything about it. They didn't reform their government. They're just sitting there waiting on a planet, waiting for Picard to come and save them. And that's the problem here. That's the problem here, is that they broke the entire show. They broke how the Romulans are. They broke how the Federation is. They broke everything about the show. They didn't just change out the characters and tell new stories in the same way. Come on, you even had Next Generation episodes repeating TOS episodes. The what was it, Naked Now, Naked whatever, where they all get, a little bit on a space virus, and it makes them very uninhibited. And this is how we had Data and Tasha Yar hook up. Wow, names, words. I get in rants and I forget the most simple stuff here. It was just a new version of what we already had, with a few new characters and some updated effects. It did not say, oh, well, like everything about Star Trek, well, screw that, and now we're going around shooting everything in the galaxy and swearing in F-bombs.
So fucking cool.
It is fucking cool.
So sorry.
Because that's what they expect in Discovery. And that's one of the big problems, is everything they set up in Discovery makes it so you can't continue TNG stuff. When this line that I'm going to play a clip from is the episode that lost a lot of fans, that is exactly what is wrong with current Star Trek, is this right here.
Sheer fucking hubris.
This is the problem here. He's like, oh, who's the captain here? The sentiment reflects some of the current fan pushback to just how radically different the novelist and screenwriter turned showrunner's own series, Star Trek Picard, has been from what viewers were used to on The Next Generation. No, it's not even just changing out the characters. It's not the same thing. Just saying, hey, I don't like this new actor. That's enough for somebody to be like, okay, well, I don't like the actor, but I'll see what they're going to give me. And I've done that with Stargate. I've done that with many of these shows. I did that with DS9. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I like this Major Kira chick. She comes off as a kind of and she grows on you. And there's a reason she's like that. And the Federation treats her with the respect that she deserves, being a high-ranking Bajoran military officer. When Sisko comes in, he's like, you know what? You're the highest-ranking one here, so you probably have a point. You probably have a reason to have a chip on your shoulder, and I'm going to treat you like a trusted ally. And that's how you do this. You don't have conflict just for the sake of having drama and interpersonal conflict. That is not what Star Trek is about, Michael Chabon. And it's not just changing the characters on the show, you're changing the entire world. Stuff like swearing was no longer a thing that happened in the Federation. Humans had evolved past the colorful metaphors, so much to the fact that they made it a joke in an entire movie. That they didn't know how to swear. That's one of the things. Starfleet was never this brutal, dark, depressing sort of place. It was a world people wanted to live in. This is not a world anybody wants to live in. Nobody is sitting there writing fanfic, writing themselves into these universes, into these scenarios, unless they're out there wanting to hump the beard boys like all the teenagers on this show.
Damn, we're smooth.
And that's the same mentality that they have, is that they're trying to appeal to this audience of people who don't like Star Trek, have never seen it. The 7th episode. of Picard, titled Nepenthe, is a welcome return to two old favorites from the previous series and a heartbreaking wrap-up for another character's journey. In a way, it's the most nostalgia-fueled episode of this new series to date, and yet it still reflects Chabon's belief that you can't go home again, and that even the most sincere, especially the most sincere, committed, and genuine attempt to recreate the next generation would fail miserably. So don't bring in Patrick effing Stewart as Picard then, if you cannot recreate. We know you can't recreate it, and when you can, they're just doing it over on the Orville because that is more Star Trek The Next Generation than any of the crap you're giving us. They've updated it. They've taken the stick out of the backside of the universe that they're in, where they now have fun and sing Journey songs and replicate, special brownies. They do that sort of thing in the Orville because it is updated for today's culture. And they are talking about stuff like, there's an episode, it's one of the most beautiful episodes of the Orville, where a girl's whole life is on her cell phone, right? And Gordon falls in love with her personality from the recordings and videos and all the data and information that they've gathered from this girl's cell phone that they found in a time capsule. And Tuvok was on that one, Tim Russ, who plays Tuvok on Voyager. And that's the thing, you have all of the good people from Voyager writing the Orville, writing and directing, and they get the message, and they get that you can talk about social complex issues. You can do that. So this is just a load of excuses to what? Pull the wool over the eyes of these investors that they think so little of, and the fans that they think so little of, that they think we're going to come in here and just accept everything that they shovel at us if they say, oh yeah, Next Generation sucked. Well, if you didn't like Next Generation, then maybe you don't like Star Trek. Did you ever think of that? Maybe if you had so many problems with it, maybe if you could never get past that, then maybe Star Trek isn't for you. Maybe if you didn't like Star Trek until you came into Discovery, until you came into Picard, maybe those are not things for you. You don't have to like everything. You don't have to like everything. There's plenty of stuff that everybody likes that I don't. I get it. We are not in a society where we have to like things. And whenever we see people, I see a lot of people.
I just see people, and I just play people.
Not you, Brie. I see people who come in and their entire existence is their fandom, is their franchise. And if you say, yeah, I didn't like that, then they take it as a personal attack. They think that you are telling them that you don't like them. And that is the bigger issue here, is we have too many people who get so wrapped up in these fandoms. And that is one of the biggest problems I'm seeing in the current divide of Star Trek fans. We have a lot of these newer people who are so attached to stuff like Discovery, so attached to something that they have to like it. They have to like it if it has Star Trek slapped on the side. And guess what? This is not the Star Trek that we knew, and they've been telling us this for months and months. For the past year and a half, they've been saying, this is not the same Star Trek. This is not the same Star Trek. And I know that this wasn't going to be the sequel to Next Generation because they wouldn't be competent enough to pull off a sequel to Next Generation. Guess who would be? Seth MacFarlane, the people over on the Orville, because they're doing it. They're doing it right now. Jonathan Frakes and Marita Sirtis return. And that's the thing. This was the most Trek because we had people who were competent. Jonathan Frakes says, oh, you're in trouble. Shields up immediately. That was one of the things I liked about this episode, is that we had people who seemed like they've been on a starship before. And that's a big problem in Discovery too. Don't get me started on Discovery.
I like science.
No, not right now, Spock. You have a bunch of people who are writing these shows who seem like they've either never seen them or never liked them, and they want to change them into something they're not. They want to make them Star Wars.
You can't stop me, I'm a Jedi from Jakku.
And they want to make it appeal to the younger Star Wars crowd who are coming in screaming and being obsessed with Reylo and all that stuff. And that's who they want to come into Star Trek. But they're also trying to extort our money by playing on our nostalgia, by bringing in classic legacy characters and then making excuses like, oh, well, you don't like it because this isn't for you anymore, because you can't do it. Well, yes, you can. Stop making excuses, Chabon. Evolution has been the modus operandi for Chabon and his team of writers. That's the problem. They're evolving it into something that it should never evolve into. This is like a failed combination of a couple of things that should not go together. It's a bold move for a time in pop culture when fan service is the order of the day. And you know what? Maybe if you gave us a little more fan service and something a little closer to Star Trek, your stock prices wouldn't be in the toilet. Your stock prices wouldn't be in the toilet. See, they're dropping. They're dropping like a rock. We got more. This is the most recent. Maybe CBS Viacom stock, if they actually gave us Star Trek like they promised, their stock wouldn't be in the toilet. But no. And then, of course, he goes on to talk about how they killed off Hugh. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. You didn't even need to bring in Hugh. You didn't need to bring in Hugh. You didn't need to bring in Icheb. You didn't need to bring 7 of 9 in. You only brought in all of these old characters to get our nostalgia dollar. And what'd you do? You said, oh, we'll take your money. We'll take your money, but we're going to kill off the whole reason you clicked on this episode. And if you don't like it, you're just an istinophobe, or you're not smart enough to see the whole story. Then you're just stuck in the past, old boomer. And that is the biggest problem with this whole show. And everything's the biggest problem. I know I say that all the time. That is one of my current problems of the day with current Star Trek. I'm tired of this article. Did I miss anything? Was there any other points that I forgot to make? Tell me what you think in the comment section below. I am Mecha Random 42. And justice for Icheb. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye!